Hi, I'm Dr. Pat, and so happy to be here to host you and share the information I've learned about the quantum field. Now, I want you to know a little bit about me. First of all, I came to this knowledge by research. I'm a researcher. I have a PhD in management, and my study was in revolutions and social movements. So that's what my dissertation was on. So I've always been looking, trying to find out how do we get to the next level of life? What is it going to take? And all this. So I served for 11 years. And once I got hold of this information a couple of years ago, I left the Senate. I walked away from it after I had won a 4-year term. I walked away because I feel this is the most important information that I can share. And there's nothing more important in my life than that I help people come into the knowledge of who we truly are. Because, see, since I was a child, I knew something was wrong with the way we were being taught and the information they were giving us. It seemed like something was missing in the equation. But now I know what it is. First of all, I found God. I say, this is it. It's God. It's just having a relationship with God. And it's true, but there are different levels, and you need to go to every level to get higher and higher and deeper so that you understand your true purpose for being here. So here, let's go. It's not going to take long. We're going to share this information, and let me share my screen. All right, so this is the introduction to the quantum living, the master class, and this is me. Some of you have already seen this video, but I'm gonna let you see it again for those that haven't. Everything you need exists. Everything you've imagined exists. Where is it? It's in the quantum field. Think of the quantum field as God's storehouse. That He has stored everything in there. He made promises to us. He said, look, if you ask anything in my name, you will receive it. He said, if two of you touch and agree on anything on earth, it shall be done in heaven. Also, he said, whatever you ask, believe that you receive it and you shall receive it. That's what he said. So where does all these things come from? Where are they? They are in the quantum field. It is the place where there's unmanifested reality, infinite potential. And all we have to do is understand that this is available to us. And if it's available to us, all we have to do is speak the language that causes it to come out to us. Now, we'll be talking about that in the next few days, but I want you to get this in your mind that it's a storehouse. Everything is in it. He said the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. Where is it laid up at? It's in the quantum field. Everything is in the quantum field. That's right. Everything is in the quantum field. So look here, it says by Ralph Waldo Emerson, it says the human mind, once stretched by a new idea, never regains its original dimensions. The human mind, once it gets stretched by a new idea, it can never go back to its original dimensions. That's what Emerson said, Ralph Waldo Emerson said many, many years ago, and it's still true today. We are in a new wave. A new wave is sweeping the entire world. And you see it says 2024 here, but it didn't just start. It started a little while back. And in fact, it started a long while back, but now it's becoming clear to common people how to use it. I know I had been using it for years, didn't understand it. When I got to a place when I got in business for the first time, and in the first year, I made $350,000 that first year. And that was coming from like 40,000 a year, and all of a sudden I made 350,000, and I got a Bentley and a BMW and a house, and I bought several houses, 10 houses, and I still have them now. And all these things happen as a result of me using the language from the quantum field. But it's hard to just get it just like that. I can just tell you, here's the language. It would mean nothing to you. So let me explain to you how it goes, okay? So the quantum field, what makes it powerful is consciousness. When you become conscious of it, when you become conscious of it, you begin to see the quantum field in many different places. And that's what you're going to see some of today. Some of you are going to get an aha moment with this session, because you're going to say, I knew that. I've experienced that, right? And I just didn't know what it was, right? That's what a lot of us are going to say. And with every new advent of consciousness, that means you get a new future. Every one of us get a new future, a chance to live differently. You can listen to this today and then take your life in a whole other direction, and people won't even know how you got the power or the knowledge to do it. You're the same person living in the same place with the same job and the same car, but everything about you is different because you understand how to operate in the quantum field. Now, I want you to know this consciousness is not brand new. It's been consciousness, new advents of consciousness throughout time, or we would even be here. So in fact, at the turn of the 20th century, there was a wave of consciousness that swept the earth. Now look here. It says here for 600 years, from 1250 AD to 1850 AD, We were in these things with what the scientists call little ice ages. Everything kept freezing over. Crops were dying. Millions of people died. It kept freezing over 600 years. And some people were born and died during that 600 years, and they believed that that's all it was. The earth was a icy place when that wasn't true. Even in Africa, you would think this didn't impact Africa, but it did. There were millions of people that died in Africa. Crops, livestock, wild animals, all were dying because it was freezing. Everything froze over for 600 years. Now, it wasn't a continuous 600 years. It would get warm, but then all of a sudden they have 50 years of cold, 75 years of cold, and then maybe 10 years of warmth. They just kept going back and forth like that. And up until 1850, they were experiencing this over and over again. But around that same time, they got knowledge about the quantum field. Now, they didn't call it the quantum field because they didn't have that language yet. Many of them called it the ether. They called it the universe. They had different ways of explaining it. Some people said it's the presence of God, but they began to learn how to use their thoughts and their words and their beliefs to change their outcomes. And you know what happened? Their consciousness, what was happening is their consciousness was expanding. And then in 1876, just 20 years later, after this ice age has been happening, all of a sudden there's a telephone. They didn't have telephones before. They had no way of reaching each other unless they hopped on their horse and rode over to each other's houses. And then the light bulb in 1879. How are these things coming back to back like that? They had nothing but torches and lanterns, and all of a sudden they have electricity, light bulbs. And then Nikola Tesla brought in the same year, 1879, current to the house, AC current. So everybody had electricity. So they were able to light their houses up with the light bulb. They had the telephone. Oh man, they was doing good. But then all of a sudden the telegraph came in 1901, Marconi. If before that, if they wanted to send a message over to Britain, they had to send their message on a ship. So it would take them months to get the question over there and then months to get the answer back. But all of a sudden, Marconi figured out how to do it on a telegraph. He made a telegraph. So now they got the telephone, the telegraph, they got the light bulb, they got electricity. They probably feel like there was big stuff. But then the air conditioner, Carrier came out. And just early 1901, 1902, he came up with the air conditioner. So all of a sudden, people had air conditioning. Okay, and then in 1903, the Wright brothers came out with the airplane. Now, can you imagine this? They had nothing. All of a sudden, they're flying around in 1903. Okay, 1905, that's when Albert Einstein, he produced his paper and he submitted his work showing the energy E equals mc squared, which means energy and mass are exactly the same thing. Energy and matter are the same thing. Now, we are matter, right? But energy and matter is actually the same thing. He showed how it was interchangeable. And that's one thing to help people be able to go from having the energy, their own energy, to creating matter, things that existed, inventing things, coming up with ideas based on using their own energy and energy of the earth. So, and then in 1908, all of a sudden they got a car. Now they got a car, they got an airplane. Here it is in 1908, Azusa Street revival broke out. And all of a sudden, blacks and whites was preaching together and praying together and prophesying together, laying hands on the sick. People were going to being arrested because they were laying hands on the sick, and the sick people was getting well, and they said, oh, you're practicing medicine. So they was being arrested, all kinds of things. People start traveling the world preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ because the power of God fell on them. It was in 1908. All these things, the telephone, the light bulb, it was a new wave, all in about 30 years. Can you imagine that? Somebody had been born saying they was 5 or 7 or 10 years old. And then all of a sudden the telephone came out while they was 10. And then when they was 13, the light bulb and electricity, and then the telegraph and the air conditioner and the airplanes and the E equal MC squared and automobiles and a breakout of Holy Ghost revival. All those things happened at the same time. Within these few decades, like 30 years, all these things happen coming out of the ice age to this place where they were able to see all this happen at that time. So I'm telling you, this was big. And why did it happen? It's because they were in the fullness of time. When the fullness of time comes, nothing can stop it. Just like this information has been there for a long time. They've been knowing since the 1800s about the quantum field and how it works, but they haven't taught us how to use it, right? Because it was something that only the elite used. That's how they got wealthy, and that's how they built and invented things and were able to take their lives to places that other people didn't even know how to go about doing it. right? But in the fullness of time, everything breaks out. And that's what's happening now. That's why we got this whole wave of consciousness sweeping the earth right now. And it's the quantum field, okay? So that's the first part. I want you to know this is not new, all right? And here's part two, all right? We're going to part two. Everything has changed in 2024. The quantum field is on the front line. People know about it, and now everything has changed. Questions that the scientists had for years, they couldn't figure out how things worked, why things worked out the way they were. All of a sudden, it's clear to them. They understand that the quantum field and how it works. It doesn't line up with classical physics. Quantum physics does not line up with classical physics, okay? So the things that you're able to do in a laboratory using quantum, well, actually, everything is quantum. Everything is quantic, should I say, and using subatomic particles. They use subatomic particles, and they've been able to see all kinds of things happen. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. Because in the past, they had thought that an atom looked like this on the left side. They said Adam had, all this matter in it, and these electrons were flowing around, orbiting the nucleus. But now they know, if you see on the right side, atom looks like this. It doesn't look like all this stuff with all this material in it. It looks like a wave. An atom looks like a wave. It's like a pulse. It's like a pulse. It's more like a wave, a pulse, than it's all this matter over here. In fact, we are made out of atoms, right? We are made out of atoms. And you see here are it says human body ingredients: oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen. If you look at us under a strong, powerful microscope, we'll look like this. We won't look like we look now, like we look like material full, dense. That's because we have billions and billions of atoms in us. I mean, 700 billion atoms make up a human being. 700 billion. Can you imagine? That's a number so big nobody can even say how to explain it, other than saying 700 billion or 7 times 10 at the 27th degree or whatever, something like that, because it's so far removed from our original thinking about what we are and who we are. So if you are atoms and you are made from energy, and you are matter and your energy, and what, according to Einstein, energy and matter can interchange. Everything is quantic, okay? That's a noun. A noun, the homogeneity of two or more variables. That's what it means. When two things are homogenized, they fit together. And we see that when we look at the universe. You see here, and you see, I don't know, so some of you all can't see this lady, but it's a lady in this picture, okay? And around her is what, would look like stardust, which is what we're made out of. We're made out of the same material that stars are made out of, and they found that out. They're like, wow, how is that? So here she is, knowing that she's quantum, okay? Knowing that she's quantic, should I say. She's quantic, and that she's operating in the quantum field. So she's able to do things and make things happen that other people don't know anything about. They don't know why things happen the way they do around them. They don't know why they attract what they attract and why things go down the way they go down. But when you understand that, you can take your life to another level. Now, this is for people who want to change their lives, who are not waiting for someone to tell them what to do next. Just tell me where to go, what to do, and I'll just do it and just pay me by the hour. Believe me, you're going to have not enough hours to get rich. You want to get wealthy? You have to figure out how to do something else. And this is what this is all about. So here's some quantum terms you should know. Superposition is one. Now, superposition, then quantum entanglement and quantum tunneling. Now, let's go back to superposition. Superposition, it means that you can be in more than one place at the same time. Now, scientists have proven in the laboratory through experiments that a subatomic particle, like an electron or proton, can be in two places at the same time, the same particle, okay? Not like, oh, it's just a twin. No, it's not a twin. It's the exact same particle in two places at the same time. Okay, now we know about that, right? Because in the scripture, it said, God said, I'm not present. I'm everywhere at the same time. And if you think about it, Gehazi, who was a servant of Elijah, he went after Naaman, this guy Naaman, who had come to Elijah to get healed because he had leprosy. He was trying to get healed, and he got healed. And then he tried to give Elijah all this gold and all these outfits and everything, these fancy outfits. And Elijah wouldn't take them. He said, because God healed you, and I'm not taking those things. Okay, so he sent Naaman away, but then Gehazi, Elijah's servant, went after Naaman and said, Naaman, you know what? My master changed his mind. So I take the gold and all the outfits you got, just give them to me, all of your attire, apparel. And he took all that and put it in his little house. And then he went back around Elijah. And Elijah said, where have you been, Gehazi? And Gehazi said, well, I just been around here doing, running around doing. He said, didn't my heart go with you when you went after Naaman? Didn't my heart go with you when you collected that gold and that apparel and took it back to your house? Don't you know, man, I was with you. So now he wasn't there physically with his own body, but he was there and he was he was at home at the same time. That's superposition. That's being in more than one place at one time. Now, how many of you, I bet some of you on this listening to this, have done the same thing. You've known what is going on somewhere without you even being there, right? Superposition. And then quantum entanglement. Quantum entanglement is what the scientists have found, that some particles are entangled. So when one moves, the other one moves. When one moves to the left, the other one moves to the left. They're all entangled. In other words, they are so entangled, when something happens to one, it automatically happens to the other. Just like a mother can know sometime when her child has been hurt or a child is in danger, because they're entangled with that child. And I'm going to give you a scripture that shows entanglement too. It said, give and it shall be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, shall men give into your bosom. That's entanglement. When you give, you're entangling with some type of blessing that's much more advanced than what you're giving. And it says you reap what you sow. So if you sow something, you're entangled with what you're supposed to reap, and you can't get away from it. It's coming to you, all right? That's quantum entanglement, okay? And then quantum tunneling. That's actually being able to go through a wall or something that's not able to be gone through. Like, for an example, what they used was electrons. And they saw that the electrons went through an impenetrable wall. They were on one side of the wall, and the next thing the scientists know, they're on the other side, and they can't explain how they got through it. They didn't go over it. They didn't go under it. They just went straight through it. And so electrons, protons, all these things, we're made out of them. Protons and electrons and neutrons, we're made out of the same thing. So that's why when Jesus walked through the wall, he said, the stuff that I do, y'all gonna be able to do, and even greater things than I'm doing. He said that because he's letting us know, just like I can walk through a wall, you can too. But it's a frame of thinking you have to get to, an understanding that you have to get to be able to grasp who you are. Because you can't fool faith. You can't act like I got faith in something and you don't, because it's not going to show up, because you didn't have faith, right? You can't fool the quantum field. The quantum field is responding to you. And that's why I'm here, to help you learn that you are talking to a quantum field all the time. As you see here, you're talking to the quantum field. They've been able to measure our emotions with a machine 3 feet away. They can measure the energy of your emotions, because your energy and your emotions do not just stay in your head. It travels outside, and people get entangled with your emotions. That's why you can get around some people and you'll feel real bad, but when you get around them, you just feel lifted up, and all of a sudden you just start feeling good when you're around that person. You can't even explain what it is, but it's their energy that you're feeling and that you're entangling with, and is healing you. Their presence heals you. And that's happening all around. But also you can be entangled with somebody that's no good. That's why the Bible says evil communications corrupt good manners. In other words, you start talking to somebody evil, your good manners are going to get corrupted, because you're going to get entangled. Okay, you cannot do that. You cannot spend time in those spaces with people who are not going anywhere, not doing anything, not wanting anything, and have nothing to lose when you got a whole lot to lose. You can't be with people like that, okay? Because you get entangled with them and you'll get what they got coming. All right. Now, here's what the scientists have been able to prove. In 1986, as you see on the bottom here, Rene Piaget conducted a most astonishing experiment to show telekinesis, which means influencing an object at a distance by the power of the mind. She said, we are able to influence an object at a distance by the power of our mind without even touching it. And she used newly hatched chickens and a specially made robot to prove it. And she's done this, this experiment has been done over and over and over and over and over again. This robot right here, this green robot, has a little ink pen on the bottom of it. And when they put a battery in it and they just put it in this tray, about the size of a table, and you'll see it when I show you the picture of it, the robot just went around everywhere, just, randomly. It didn't have any direction. It was nobody steering it anywhere. So it just went all over the paper, all over the tray, and you could see the drawing and where all it went. Then what they did was they caused these, well, this is it right here, where it shows where the robot went. He just went all over it. Everywhere he went, there was lines. Everywhere he went, there was lines. And they had this cage sitting over here, but nothing was in it. Then they introduced the chickens. Baby chicks, when they are born, the first thing that they see, they think is their mother. So they made sure that the baby chick saw the robot. So wherever the robot would go, baby chicks would follow it because they felt like it was their mother. Okay. And they was going all over the board just like this. But then they took the baby chick and put him in the cage. That cage right here. They put all those baby chicks in the cage. And all of a sudden, those birds begin to draw that robot toward them. As you see here, there's no explanation for why this robot is hanging around this cage, except for these birds use their energy to attract what they wanted. And we got to understand, if a baby chick can do it, we are doing the same thing. We are attracting things to us. We're pulling things to us. And we're pulling things to us that we think about a lot. If it's poverty that you think about a lot, losing you think about a lot, people are not fair, they just don't do right by you. If you're thinking about that, you're going to keep pulling that to you. The same thing over to you over and over again. The Bible says, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. But then the next verse says, but you're going to die like men. Why did he say that? Because we don't step into the knowledge of who we are and operate as who we are. Okay, your thoughts have power. All right, and your energy is drawing things to you or pushing things away. Okay, here's another one. This was in Popular Mechanics magazine. I put this date in here by mistake, but it's October 23rd, 2023. It said your consciousness can connect with the whole universe. It says, in a groundbreaking study, scientists have put forth the astonishing proposition that human consciousness has the ability to connect with the entire universe. The whole time, these scientists have been believing that our consciousness stays within your brain. It's something that happens inside. But no, your consciousness is traveling. It's traveling outside of your body, and it's affecting other people, and it's having experiences because you're conscious of something and you're thinking about something and you're actually having that experience. In fact, when you go down here, this picture's in the way so you can't see the whole thing, but it said when we imagine, and what they said, when you imagine what if scenarios, when you say, what if, I did stay, out of town for an extra week, what would happen? And you think about it, then they said you're actually experiencing that, not only experiencing, but living that in another dimension. They said when we think about something, we meditate on something, we're actually living in it, doing it in another dimension that is actually happening. It's not just in our mind. Our consciousness connects with the whole universe. Now I'm gonna give you an example of this because this blew me for a long time. Okay, when Jesus said, when a man had looked upon a woman and lusted after her and imagined himself being with her, he said, you've already committed that sin. And they said, well, how could that be? He didn't touch her. He said, if you spent time thinking about it, that means you did it. And so what is he saying? On another dimension, you have actually performed that act. So now you've committed the sin of adultery. That's what he said. I was like, I could not understand that for the life of me until now, that because we live on more than one dimension, we are experiencing things in different dimensions. And if we want that which we are experiencing in a dimension to come home to us, we got to hold on to it. And we got to keep it in our mind like those baby chicks did. Because you have to understand, everything is quantic, and we are too. We are beaming all around us. We're sending out signals all around us. And it's a magnetic field, okay? And that magnetic field is drawing things into us. All right, because we are not just flesh and blood, but we are spirit. We are energy. Okay, everything is energy. All right, everything is quantic. Everything is quantic. So when you think about yourself, some of you still might not be able to see this lady here. That's her little ponytail, and then it's her. When you think about yourself operating in this world, I want you to think about yourself as being quantic, because you are. And imagine that you're moving things around, that you're changing things, and you're calling things to you with your thoughts and with your words and with your actions. That's how you're doing it. You know, this is how they do it. This is how they've been doing it. We just didn't know anything about it. We've been busy learning how to memorize words and repeat them, right? Learning how to run a machine and run it repeatedly over and over and over again. But those days are over because the robots are going to get those jobs. So we have to go to the next level of living. And we can't say, oh, somebody hired me, someone. No, you come up and stand up and be who you are. Okay, stand up and become who you are supposed to be. And that means learn. You have to learn because ignorance is not free. It's not free. The whole world is chasing this. There is a race, a world race around quantum supremacy. Now, when I say quantum supremacy, that's something that all the major countries around the world are racing after. Just like we had the arms race when they was fighting to see who was going to have the most powerful arms, so they rule the world because they had the most powerful arms. And they also had the space race, like who's going to get on the moon first. The world was pushing behind it. Certain ones was running after it. It's the same way with the quantum supremacy. They are looking to have quantum supremacy by having computers that do everybody else's computer. Okay. Now Google claimed they had quantum supremacy, and they did about 2 years ago. They had a computer that could solve a problem in 200 seconds that a supercomputer in the U.S. Defense Department, okay, the U.S. Defense Department's supercomputer would take 10,000 years to solve that problem, and Google's quantum computer solved it in 200 seconds. You know what that means? That means whoever gets quantum supremacy is going to rule the world. They're going to rule the world because they're going to be able to break every code, break every password, figure out where everything is going by just using computers. Today, our computers use 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. You know, they calculate one by one, going all the way through. A quantum computer uses superposition. They calculate everything at once. So, and it's small. I mean, you probably can hold it in your hand like this. They're small. You can see them on the internet. Just look them up. Look for a quantum computer. You see it. They're small. They're nothing near the supercomputer. But supercomputers that we see down in the Defense Department, you know, we think our phone can do something. Those supercomputers can solve all kinds of problems. They can figure out all kinds of things by feeding the information in, and it comes back out with the answer, right? This quantum computers are doing far more and far better. So the whole world, every major nation, just start paying attention. They are going for quantum supremacy because they realize whoever get quantum supremacy, they're going to rule the world because they're going to have the answer to every question. There will be no need to actually see a doctor. You just need to put your ailments into the computer. Just type in your symptoms and what you're having, and they'll come back from around the world immediately with all the things that's happening, even in other parts of the world, with the same symptoms that you have and what's happening, what's being said about those things. It's just going to be phenomenal. In fact, IBM has 5 quantum computers online now that you and I can use anytime. Just look it up. It's just that I've been there a few times, but I'm like, what am I going to ask this computer? I don't know what to ask this computer. Right? I'm still dealing with Chat GPT. So, you know, that's what I'm saying. So this advancement is coming swift and it's coming strong. We're going to see so much advancement in science, technology. It's going to blow our mind. So that's why you don't wait and be behind the 8 ball thinking that somebody's going to pick you up. Don't do that. Pick yourself up and begin to carry the word. If you got somebody that's too heavy, that don't want to go, you have to move forward. You can always go back and get them once you move forward and get your footing so that you can do the things you need to do. Because our eyes have not seen what's about to happen. Now, I want to talk to you about what to do now. And number 1, understand that ignorance is not free. It's not free. So you have to learn the language. And I'm teaching that on TikTok. Every day I'm putting stuff up. Learn the language. Learn the principles, how it works, why it doesn't work. So you can learn how to use the power of the quantum field. All right, so that is it. That is it. So I am going to also go through a training, provide a training for you about how to use the language, because that's what I used. I used the language of the quantum field, even though I didn't understand it. But I used the language of the quantum field, and I able to meet the man of my dreams, hit that $350,000, I was 57 years old when I got my Bentley and my BMW. I didn't even own a home. I didn't have $500 in the bank. All of a sudden, I understood something. And I used that language. And I had been using it different times in my life before I got saved, really. After I got saved, I kind of like put that in the background, but because I didn't understand how it worked, how it was supposed to work. So I just did what I knew. And when I hit that 57 years old and I was able to do all those things, win my election, okay, by a landslide. And I had never ran before. I had never ran for office before that. I think I was 55 at that time. Hadn't ran for office before. And I was able to do that. I was able to get that Bentley, get the BMW, take world trips, win trips everywhere I went. I was winning trips, right? Meet my husband, write my first book, walk away and leave the Senate. Who can do that with a 4-year term in front of me? I had 4 years. I just won, and went through the inauguration in January 8th or something like that. On the 31st, I walked out of there and never went back, because I know something, and that's something I know I want you to know.